Okay, so hello everyone, welcome to the first part of the tutorial. We'll start this by opening Rhino. So after you've installed Rhino, you're supposed to see it here or here and simply double click and open. It will take a while. Once you open Rhino, this is basically Rhino's interface. For those of you who are familiar, it would be easier, but if you're not, then you can see all the different menus are here on top. You have the different views of your model set up here to top, perspective, right, and front. If you double click on the title of a specific view, you can dive deeper and isolate that specific view from the others. In terms of the interface itself, you can see the Rhino layers here. It's very similar to any other modeling software where the different objects can be assigned into layers. And you have the command line, which is the way you pass commands to the Rhino interface up here. I'll show you how to use this in a second. And you see some other more direct tools that you can apply from this tool set or toolbar on the left-hand side. We're going to use this sometimes. But as you can see, there are many options to interacting with the Rhino engine, but we will mainly do so through the command line. In terms of Visual Arc, which is a plugin that we're going to use, it has also a menu here. And also, if you don't have this tool set appearing on the top hand, you can basically double click and activate it from this submenu. Simply click on the parts of the Visual Arc that you want to have active. Okay, so this is basically it. And now what we want to do is we want to open the first file, which is our office layout example. And I'm going to show you how to model an office layout very, very basically, but from scratch. So let's open the example file that you have on the course website. It's called EBD Exc2. As you'll see, it opens up and I'm going to have this welcome to Visual Arc. You're going to have the evaluation version. I have the full version, and it also loads Grasshopper. I have some conflicts here. It doesn't really matter. We're not going to use Grasshopper for this specific tutorial. Okay, that doesn't really matter. Sometimes there are errors and duplicates. Okay, so what you can actually see here is that we have opened the example file, and what we have is essentially the ability to see the layout. It's a Visual Arc layout, so it means that there's an indication of the floor. As you can see here, I have a scale, a reactive scale bar. So the Visual Arc template is also changing the way Rhino actually looks. And as you can see here, similarly to how it would work in a BIM environment, we have the different components of the model that are already set into layers. These layers are of course empty because we have nothing in our model so far except for this core, which I'll explain about in a second. This is part of this line work layer. We can disable it for now to avoid being distracted. So basically what we have here are all the potential elements that Visual Arc gives us or provides us as part of the package, but these layers are empty. Once we'll integrate or once we'll assign or add one of these elements into the model, they will automatically be affiliated to one of these layers, either walls, openings, doors, and so forth and so forth. You'll see this in a second. Now, we have provided for you the layout, the basic layout for the office building, but I want to show you how to do this mostly from scratch. So let's start. I'm going to zoom into the top view, and I'm going to start with the most basic element in the entire notion of an office space, which is the grid. So I'm going to, in this case, click on the rectangle tool. I can also do this through the command line. And then what Rhino asks me to do is to position my cursor somewhere and start declaring the dimensions of that specific rectangle. To be precise, I'm going to input, just by using my keyboard, 0, 0, 0 as the starting point, and then you can see that my cursor is now locked on the 0, 0, 0 point, which is our origin, right? And then I'm going to click again, and I'm going to pass through the command line the dimensions of the grid, right? So as we've discussed in the last class, office spaces have this 1.35 over 1.35 grid. And if you look at floor plans, we basically see that what we have is 8.1 times 8.1 grids that are this multiplication of the 1.35 measure. So what I'm going to have now is 8.1, right? This is what I'm inputting, times 8.1. Done. So now I'm working, and as you can see, I am not, this entire layer is in my default, right? Because Visual Arc doesn't assign it into any one of these object-oriented layers. It's simply a line work or default. And once I've created this grid, what I want to do is I want to replicate it, or I want to create an array, right? Because our office is made of an array of these grids. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pass the command array, right? So you can see it here. And now I need to declare for Rhino how many cells I'm going to have on the x-axis, and how many am I going to have on the y-axis and on the z-axis. So what we're going to do is we're going to have an office space that is 6 by 6, right? So these are our constraints. I'm declaring this, and in the z-axis, I'm only going to have 1. Once I've created this, basically Rhino is going to ask me what is the actual spacing between the elements in the array. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to take this diagonal distance, right? You can see that if I create, for instance, I can also lock the mid distance, but I don't want to do this, right? So what I want to do is I want to basically create an array that is a 6 by 6 grid of these 8.1 by 8.1 modules. So I'm going to lock my cursor here, and now I need to click enter once again. Great. So this is our baseline. This is our grid. This will be used to build the column structure and to assign the core, and also as a reference point for you to be able to design the different modules within the office layout. Now I'm going to add another, I'm just clicking this rectangle tool again, and I am creating a larger rectangle, or in this case a square, to later on pass this as the curve element to create a curtain wall, which is going to be our facade in this case. So before we continue and start creating the Visual Arc elements, what I would like to do is I would like to showcase the core, right? The circulation core. This is part of our constraint. So we've created this for you. As you can see, it's extremely simple, right? So we only have lines here. These are supposed to be the elevators, and here we're going to have the staircase. And of course, this entire thing is a structural core, so it's made out of concrete. Now, what I would like to do next is I would like to actually create the column grid. And this will be done in the next part of the tutorial. So far, what we have done, we have opened Visual Arc, we have opened Rhino, we've set up the workspace, and we've created our line work, which will be used to eventually define the geometry that Visual Arc would take to create the different objects within our office layout.